Today on That Lovell-Boland Life, we're talking about Singapore housing.
We're going through some of the reasons why foreigners should consider living in HDBs.
So Singapore might just be a little red dot, but that doesn't mean you should just consider living anywhere.
And actually where you live can have a huge impact on your lifestyle, your expenses, and even your sanity.
So today we're going to go through the reasons why foreigners should consider living in an HDB, which is a subsidised government flat.
But before we get into it, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up so others can find it.
So if you are watching the video, you're likely new to Singapore or looking where to move next.
Actually, a lot of foreigners do tend to live in condos because they have gyms, pools, security, but we actually are kind of the oddity here. We actually live in an HDB, so we're going to be going through some of the reasons why you might want to consider an HDB rental.
And we'll use our experience of 4 years living in HDBs here in Singapore, but it's not all positive news. Stick around and we will go through some of the reasons why living in an HDB may not be suitable for you. So for me, the number one reason why foreigners should live in an HDB is cost.
We're both here working, but not under an expat package. So it was obviously the right decision for us because we don't have a housing allowance from our work. I'd say with condos, they're roughly about $1,000 more expensive per month with the same sort of size that we have right here in our HDB flat. So number 2 on the list is space. Singapore is obviously quite a small country, so space is limited, but in the older HDBs, which is kind of one we're staying in, we have a very big living room, a huge kitchen, which is double the size of many new condos which we've seen when we viewed the flats.
So in our 4 years in Singapore, we've rented 2 separate HDBs. We generally look for about 1,000 square foot plus, because we do have families staying. Rianne's mum lives in KL, dad lives in the UK, my parents have come a few times, so it's always great to have that extra space. And I think when we have looked around condos, some have been 500 square foot, 600 square foot, and it's not enough for our lifestyle.
Roughly the same sort of price that we would pay as well, which for half the size. So that's a huge benefit to living in an HDB.
And the third reason why foreigners should consider living in an HDB is accessibility. Most HDBs are near bus stops, they're near MRTs. Like we've been lucky in the last 2 places we have lived that there's been a bus stop right on the front door for us.
And it's always really great because you just step out the door and you're already on the bus and then you can connect to the MRTs. So it's quite easy for us. Whereas when we've gone to condos to visit, even just walking onto the premises is almost such a hike. And especially in the Singapore heat, if you don't have a car, it's really quite difficult to get around in a condo, especially if you're carrying shopping or things like that, which, you know, has been one of the reasons why we've ruled out staying in a condo. Also, if you want to have guests over, it's much easier to have people come straight into the HDB because there's no security. You don't have to show your ID card or your IC card. So it's much easier. You don't have to register. You can come straight up and spend more time with your friends.
So they are our 3 top reasons why foreigners should consider living in an HDB.
Now, on the flip side, one of the biggest cons to living in an HDB is there are no amenities. I cannot tell you how many times I have looked outside the window and seen the sun shining and just wish that I had a balcony or a pool, because I feel like you don't really make the most of this great weather here when you live in an HDB because you're kind of stuck inside. There's no way to enjoy the great weather apart from maybe opening the window.
The annoying thing is, we lived in Malaysia for 2 years. We worked basically 10 to 7. We didn't really need the amenities there.
Yeah.
Now,
not making the most of the weather.
Now we work odder hours, which means we are here during the day, so having those amenities would be great.
Absolutely. I know it's one of those things where I'm kind of kicking myself that we didn't make the most of things when we had it in Malaysia, but now we don't have it in Singapore and we could have made the most of it. So that's one of the reasons why it's kind of a negative side to living in an HDB.
Okay, so the second con on our list, and it's something we have had trouble with in the past, I'd say, is renting an HDB can be a hassle.
So when we've been on the hunt for another HDB, some landlords actually have to lock a bedroom, because if they've not owned it for 5 years, that's the rule, that they cannot actually rent out the whole property. It's a little bit frustrating actually, because a lot of them do lock the master bedroom, or even so, you just have that door which you can't access. When you're looking at a place, they put the whole floor space, so then you're actually getting a lot less than you expected.
Yeah, the agents generally don't tell you when you're setting up an appointment. The worst thing about locking up the master room is that it's the one with the ensuite. So it's the one that you really want to have. Of
course. So that's kind of a downside to renting in an HDB apartment. And number 3 on our list is HDB quotas. Now this is something we have personally experienced. As we said at the beginning of the video, we have lived in 2 different HDBs, and the reason for that is because we hit the HDB quota. So there is a limit to how many foreigners can live in an HDB at one time.
So when we went to renew our first HDB, which was up for renewal after 2 years, we got hit by the HDB quota. So basically, you can have 8% at the neighborhood level and 11% at the block level. So if that quota is hit, they can only rent to Malaysians or Singaporeans.
Yeah, so HDB actually have to approve the tenancy agreement. That quota had been hit in our block, so we actually had to move out. But it was all for the best, because we found this place and we love it. And it's kind of, I think we feel happier here than we did in our old HDB. So when one door closes, another one opens.
And there we have it. That was our top 3 pros and cons of why foreigners should consider living in an HDB.
And just one little extra thing for 2021, there are a lot of the build to order flats that are being postponed due to COVID-19, so rents here are going up, especially as many Malaysians cannot cross over the border. So that's just something you want to take into consideration when you're looking at either a condo or an HDB rental.
Yeah, it's a huge factor. So there we have it. Thank you very much for watching. Like we said before, if you found this information useful or you've liked the video, please give us a massive thumbs up. It really does help us, and share it. If there's anyone that you think should watch this video, help us by sharing it.
See you on the next one.